There's a moment that happens when you catch yourself doing it again. The same pattern, the same reaction, the same choice you promised yourself you wouldn't make anymore. Maybe it's the relationship dynamic you swore you'd never repeat. Maybe it's the work habit that keeps pulling you back under. Maybe it's the way you collapse when things get hard, even though you've done years of work to rebuild resilience. And in that moment, the disappointment is crushing because you thought you were past this. You thought you'd grown. You thought you'd learn. And the question that follows is always the same. Why do I keep doing this? What's wrong with me? Here's what I want you to consider. Nothing is wrong with you, and you haven't failed. Patterns repeat. Not because you're weak, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because change works differently than you've been told. This video is about why you keep returning to patterns that you thought you'd outgrown. It's about the difference between familiarity and safety, about why your nervous system resists identities it doesn't recognize, even when they're better for you, and about why awareness by itself has never been enough. This won't tell you that you just need to try harder or want it more. It won't shame you for backsliding, but it will help you see repetition for what it actually is. Not failure, but incomplete integration. And that changes everything. Let's start here. Your nervous system prioritizes familiarity over safety. Most people think those are the same thing, but they're not. Safety is what's actually good for you. Familiarity is what feels known. And when your system has to choose between the two, it will choose familiar almost every time, even if familiar is painful, even if familiar is limiting, even if familiar is exactly what you're trying to move away from. Why? Because familiar is predictable, and predictable feels manageable. Your system knows how to navigate it. It's already mapped the terrain. It knows what to expect, how to respond, where the exits are. Unfamiliar, on the other hand, even when it's safer, even when it's healthier, activates threat detection. Because your system doesn't have a reference point for it. It doesn't know if it can trust it. And in the absence of trust, it defaults back to what it knows. This is why you can know something is bad for you and still return to it. This is why you can understand a pattern intellectually and still repeat it behaviorally. Because the part of you making the decision isn't operating from logic, it's operating from familiarity. And familiarity isn't rational, it's survival. So when you find yourself back in the same pattern, it's not because you haven't learned, it's because your system is doing exactly what it's designed to do, to keep you in the known even when the known is painful. Now, let's talk about identity, because this is where it gets deeper. You don't just repeat behaviors, you repeat versions of yourself, and those versions, they have their own internal logic, their own nervous system state, their own way of seeing the world. When you're in a certain pattern, you're not just doing something, you're being someone. And that someone has an identity, a set of beliefs about who you are, what's possible, what you deserve, and how the world works. And here's the thing, even when you consciously decide to change, even when you commit to becoming someone different, your system still has the old identity on file. And under stress, under pressure, under uncertainty, it will pull that identity back up. Not because you're regressing, because that identity feels more familiar, and familiar identities are easier to access than new ones. This is why change feels so unstable at first, because you're not just learning new behaviors, you're trying to occupy a new identity, and that new identity doesn't feel like you yet. It feels like you're performing, like you're pretending, like you're trying on a costume that doesn't quite fit. And when that discomfort gets too intense, when the gap between who you're trying to be and who you feel like inside gets too wide, your system snaps back. Not because the new version isn't better, but because it's not integrated yet. And this is the part most people don't understand. Backsliding isn't failure, it's incomplete identity transition. You're not falling back because you're weak. You're falling back because the new version of you hasn't been fully embodied yet. It's still in your head. It's still conceptual. Your nervous system hasn't internalized it as real. And you can't think your way into a new identity. You have to live it. Slowly, repeatedly, in small, sustainable increments, until your system recognizes it as familiar. But most people don't know that. So when they backslide, they interpret it as evidence that they can't change, that they're stuck, that they're broken. And that interpretation makes everything worse, because you're not just repeating the pattern, you're reinforcing the belief that the pattern is inevitable. Here's the third thing. Awareness doesn't equal integration. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in self-development. People think that once they see the pattern, once they understand where it came from, once they can name what's happening, that should be enough to stop it. But it's not. Because awareness lives in your prefrontal cortex. It's conscious. It's analytical. It's the part of you that can observe and reflect and make sense of things. But patterns don't live there. They live deeper, in your limbic system, in your body, in the automatic responses that happen before you even realize you're responding. So you can be aware of a pattern and still repeat it. You can understand it intellectually and still feel it viscerally. You can see it coming and still not be able to stop it in the moment. And when that happens, you blame yourself. You think, if I really understood, I wouldn't keep doing this. But that's not how it works. Understanding is the first step, but integration, the process of getting your nervous system to trust the new pattern more than the old one, that takes time and repetition and conditions that feel safe enough to let the old pattern go. You can't rush that. You can't force it. And you definitely can't shame yourself into it. Here's the fourth piece. Your body remembers what your mind has outgrown. You might know cognitively that you don't need to please everyone anymore, but your body still tenses when someone's upset with you. You might know that you don't have to prove your worth through performance anymore, but your body still floods with anxiety when you're not being productive. Because your body is storing history, emotional memory, survival data, and that data doesn't get deleted just because you've gained insight. Your body learned at some point that pleasing people kept you safe, that performing earned you love, that staying small avoided punishment. And those lessons, they're not stored as thoughts, they are stored as sensations, as reflexes, as automatic nervous system responses. And when those responses get triggered, your body moves faster than your mind. It reacts before you can intervene. And by the time your conscious awareness catches up, you're already in the pattern. That's not failure. That's biology. And the only way to shift it is to give your body new data, not through understanding, through experience, through slowly, consistently creating new conditions where the new response feels safer than the old one. But that requires patience. And most people don't have patience with themselves. They expect transformation to be linear. They expect that once they get it, they should be done. But your body doesn't work on that timeline. It works on a timeline of repetition and safety. And until it feels safe enough to let go of the old pattern, it will keep pulling it back up. So let's bring this together. If you keep repeating patterns you thought you'd outgrown, if you keep finding yourself back in dynamics, reactions, or versions of yourself that you've worked so hard to change, it's not because you're failing. It's because change is a process, not an event. And that process involves more than just awareness. It involves your nervous system learning to trust a new identity more than the old one. It involves your body integrating new data. It involves time and repetition and conditions that feel safe enough to let the old pattern dissolve. And you might be feeling something right now. Maybe frustration, maybe exhaustion, maybe a deep sadness that this is taking longer than you thought it would. That's okay. That's normal. That's part of it. Because this isn't about fixing yourself faster. It's about understanding how change actually works. So you can stop interpreting repetition as failure and start seeing it as part of the process. Patterns repeat when they're unresolved, not because you're weak. And resolution isn't something you force. It's something you create the conditions for. And maybe the reason you keep returning to the same place isn't because you're stuck. Maybe it's because there's something you haven't fully integrated yet. Something your system is trying to resolve. And when you stop seeing that as failure, when you stop treating repetition as evidence of inadequacy, you can actually meet it with curiosity instead of shame. And that's when things start to shift. This is where most people stop. Not because they can't change, but because they don't know how change actually works. They think repetition means they're broken. They think backsliding means they failed. And so they give up. Not because the work is too hard, because they don't have the map. But you do now. You know that patterns repeat not because you're incapable, but because integration takes time. You know that your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And you know that awareness is just the beginning, not the end. You don't have to be past this yet. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to stop repeating the pattern today. You just have to stop making it mean something is wrong with you.